Welcome back to our channel World of Coins, the place where we uncover hidden treasures in your coin collection. Have you ever wondered if that old coins could be worth thousands or even millions? Well, today's your lucky day. We're diving into some of the rarest and most valuable US coins that might be sitting right under your nose. Let's jump in and see if you've got a fortune waiting to be discovered. Top 1. Coins are more than just currency. They're tiny time capsules, filled with stories of history, war, craftsmanship, and sometimes, incredible value. Today, we're going to talk about a coin that might appear ordinary at first glance, but if you know what to look for, you might just be holding a small treasure in your hands. That coin is the 1943 Jefferson nickel, a 5-cent piece that not only helped support the United States during one of the most defining moments in world history, but also continues to surprise collectors with its hidden value. The year was 1943. The world was in the thick of World War II. Every nation was mobilizing resources, adjusting industries, and reshaping economies to support the war effort. The United States was no different. Factories shifted to military production, civilians rationed food and fuel, and even coinage, something most people wouldn't even think about, was changed in direct response to the war. Nickels at that time were typically made of 75% copper and 25% nickel. But nickel was a valuable metal needed for military equipment, especially for making armor plating and weapons. So, in an extraordinary move, the U.S. Mint altered the composition of the 5-cent coin starting in 1942 and continuing through 1945. These special coins came to be known as wartime nickels. Instead of copper and nickel, the new nickels were made from a unique alloy of 56% copper, 35% silver, and 9% manganese. That's right, silver. For those 3 years, 5-cent coins contained real silver, which not only changed the way they looked but also made them heavier and more valuable today. The Jefferson nickels minted during these war years are some of the most sought after by collectors, and among them, the 1943 issue stands out in several fascinating ways. Let's talk about the design. On the obverse, the front, you'll find the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States and the principal author of the Declaration of Independence. His side profile, serious and thoughtful, faces left, accompanied by the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date, 1943. This design, created by artist Felix Schlag, has become iconic in American coinage and remains largely unchanged to this day. Flip the coin over, and you'll see Jefferson's famous home, Monticello. It's beautifully detailed, flanked by the words, E pluribus unum, United States of America, and 5 cents. But here's where it gets interesting. To easily identify these wartime silver nickels, the U.S. Mint made a key change. They added a large mint mark above the dome of Monticello, right on the reverse side of the coin. This was the first time a mint mark ever appeared on the reverse of a U.S. coin, and it made the wartime nickels instantly recognizable. There were 3 mint locations producing the 1943 Jefferson nickels: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Philadelphia coins carry a large P above Monticello, Denver coins show a D, and San Francisco coins display an S. This reverse mint mark, especially the large P, was another historic first for U.S. coins. Now, most 1943 nickels, especially those worn from circulation, are modest in value. But not all nickels are created equal. Some possess features so rare, so unique, that they elevate the coin's status from simple currency to a collector's dream. One such feature is the double die error. This occurs during the minting process when the die used to strike the coin hits the planchet twice with slight misalignment. The result is clear doubling of letters or numbers, especially noticeable in the words Monticello and 5 cents on the reverse. When strong and easily visible, this error makes a 1943 nickel far more valuable. Another highly collectible variety is the off-metal strike, a mistake where a nickel was accidentally struck on a blank meant for another coin, such as a penny. This kind of minting error is extremely rare and almost always commands serious attention at auctions. Even more astonishing are the examples of 1943 nickels struck with incomplete planchets, off-center strikes, or dramatic die cracks. These aren't the types of flaws that ruin a coin, quite the opposite. To collectors, these flaws are like birthmarks of rarity. They prove the coin is one of a kind and carry a premium, but condition matters too. A well-circulated 1943 nickel might sell for a few dollars. But one in mint state, especially at grades of MS 65 or higher, becomes a completely different story. Coins in pristine, uncirculated condition, with full steps on Monticello and flawless surfaces, are rare, especially after 8 decades of wear, circulation, and storage. These top-grade coins are highly desirable, and collectors will pay thousands for a perfect example. In fact, a 1943 Jefferson nickel with full steps, perfect luster, and no contact marks can fetch astronomical prices when combined with a rare error like a strong double die or an off-metal strike. It's the kind of coin that serious numismatists dream of finding, in pocket change, old family collections, or even forgotten rolls stored away for decades. Proof coins were not produced in 1943 due to the wartime restrictions, which makes high-grade business strikes all the more important. Every surviving coin is a part of wartime history, not just a piece of money, but a symbol of how even the smallest things were adjusted to help win a global conflict. So, the next time you come across an old nickel, especially one from 1943, don't just toss it aside. Take a closer look. Does it have the large mint mark above Monticello? Is the strike unusually sharp? Are there signs of doubling, or does the coin look different from the others? You could be holding something special, something historic, something incredibly valuable, and here's the exciting part: a single 1943 Jefferson nickel, struck with a remarkable mint error, preserved in flawless condition, and authenticated by top grading agencies, once sold at auction for a breathtaking $220,000. Yes, a 5-cent coin, born in the midst of war, meant to serve a nation under pressure, turned out to be worth more than many homes today. That's the magic of coin collecting, finding beauty, rarity, and value where others might see just spare change. Top 2. It's incredible how often we overlook the smallest things: a scrap of paper, a faded photograph, a coin jingling at the bottom of our pocket. But hidden within those tiny everyday items are sometimes the biggest stories. One such story lies in a small silver-toned coin that millions of Americans have handled, spent, and passed along without a second thought. But today, we're going to take a closer look at a coin that seems ordinary, yet is anything but. This is the story of the 1964 Jefferson nickel, a coin with mystery, history, and value that could quite literally change your life. Let's set the stage. The year is 1964. America was at the height of the Cold War. President Lyndon B. Johnson had taken office following the assassination of John F. Kennedy. The country was wrestling with civil rights issues, the space race was heating up, and the Vietnam War was becoming a major point of focus. At the same time, the U.S. Mint was dealing with a growing crisis, a coin shortage that threatened to disrupt commerce across the nation. This shortage wasn't just about nickels. It affected dimes, quarters, and half dollars too. The causes were many: rising demand, hoarding by collectors, and rising metal prices all contributed to the problem. But the nickel, that humble 5-cent piece, played a unique role during this time. While the U.S. Mint was preparing to change the composition of other coins in 1965 due to silver shortages, the nickel retained its traditional metal mix, 75% copper and 25% nickel. And 1964 would go down in history as the last year that nickels carried a visible date before the mint froze all coin dates for several years. That's right, to combat the coin shortage, Congress passed legislation that allowed the mint to freeze the date on coins. This meant that even though nickels were being produced in 1965, 1966, and beyond, they still bore the date 1964. As a result, the 1964 Jefferson nickel became the most heavily produced 5-cent coin in U.S. history. Over 2.8 billion nickels were minted in 1964 alone, split between the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. But here's where things get interesting: even though billions of 1964 nickels exist, not all of them are created equal. Among the sea of common coins, a few rare varieties and mysterious versions have emerged, and these are the coins that collectors dream of finding. First, let's look at the design. On the front, or obverse, you see the familiar image of Thomas Jefferson, designed by Felix Schlag. The profile is dignified and sharp, with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the year, 1964, curving around it. On the reverse, we find Monticello, Jefferson's iconic Virginia home, standing firm and symmetrical beneath the words, "E pluribus unum, United States of America," and 5 cents. The coin's composition gives it a dull silver appearance, which darkens over time but carries a quiet strength, fitting for one of America's most famous founding fathers. Now, the 1964 nickel was minted at 2 locations, the Philadelphia Mint, with no mint mark, and the Denver Mint, with a small d to the right of Monticello. But here's the twist: some 1964 nickels have been discovered with unofficial mint marks, misaligned dies, and even struck on the wrong metal planchets, including copper penny blanks and foreign coin planchets. These are the coins that break the mold, and send collectors into a frenzy. One of the most famous and mysterious varieties of the 1964 Jefferson nickel is the 1964 Special Strike, SMS. These coins weren't meant for circulation and weren't included in any regular mint sets. In fact, they weren't even publicly acknowledged by the U.S. Mint for decades. It wasn't until the 1990s that collectors began discovering these strange, unusually struck 1964 nickels in a small number of estate collections. The coins appeared to have been produced with experimental techniques, showcasing sharper details, satin-like surfaces, and stronger strikes. The existence of these mysterious SMS nickels led to all kinds of theories. Some believe they were trial pieces for a planned special mint set release. Others think they were experimental strikes for future coinage improvements. But whatever their origin, one thing is clear: they are extremely rare. Only a handful of authentic 1964 SMS nickels have ever been graded and certified by trusted coin grading agencies like PCGS and NGC. Another variety collectors are constantly hunting is the full steps, FS, Jefferson nickel. This term refers to the steps on the Monticello building on the reverse. To qualify as full steps, a coin must show 5 or 6 distinct, uninterrupted steps, which is very difficult to achieve due to the nature of nickel striking in the 1960s. Coins with full steps are significantly rarer and command much higher prices than typical circulation strikes. Errors, too, make some 1964 nickels incredibly valuable. Examples of double die obverse, off-center strikes, and planchet errors have all been found. Each one tells a story of a moment in the minting process when something went unexpectedly wrong, resulting in a coin that stands out from billions of others. For serious collectors, these errors aren't flaws, they're golden opportunities, but as with all collectible coins, condition is key. A 1964 nickel with even a small amount of wear will sell for far less than one in pristine, uncirculated condition. Coins that have been preserved for decades in original rolls, mint bags, or collector albums often retain their full mint luster and detail, especially if they were never touched by human hands. If such a coin also happens to be a rare variety or mint error, the value skyrockets. So now, we come to the question that's on everyone's mind: can a 1964 Jefferson nickel really be worth a fortune? The answer, shockingly, is yes. Imagine a 1964 Jefferson nickel with all the right features: perfect strike, stunning condition, rare full steps, and authenticated as one of the mysterious special strike varieties. Now imagine it being discovered in a private collection, certified by a top grading agency, and offered to the highest bidder at a prestigious auction. That exact scenario happened. And the final sale price for one of the most extraordinary 1964 Jefferson nickels ever found stunned the coin collecting world. That little 5-cent piece, so often ignored and undervalued, sold for an astonishing $1,850,000. Yes, you heard that right, that a coin that was worth just 5 cents when it was made now holds a value that would make anyone's jaw drop. It's a powerful reminder that value isn't always about size or appearance. Sometimes, it's about rarity, mystery, and being in the right place at the right time. So the next time you go through your pocket change, open an old coin jar, or sort through a family collection, take a moment to look a little closer. You might just be holding something priceless. Because as the story of the 1964 Jefferson nickel shows us, greatness often hides in plain sight. Top 3. There's something timeless about American coins, those small pieces of metal that pass from hand to hand, through generations, each carrying a bit of history. But every now and then, hidden among the millions of everyday coins, lies a treasure. A coin that stands out not because of its size or shine, but because of its incredible story and unimaginable value. One such coin is the Jefferson nickel from 1971, a coin that many people overlook, yet could be worth far more than anyone might expect. Let's take a journey back to 1971. The United States was in a period of massive transition. The Vietnam War was reaching its most controversial stage, the Apollo space program had just sent astronauts to the moon, and Americans were feeling the effects of a shifting economy. It was a time of social change, political turmoil, and innovation, and yet, amidst all this chaos, millions of people were still using the same familiar coins every day, including the unassuming 5-cent Jefferson nickel. Now, at first glance, the 1971 Jefferson nickel doesn't appear particularly special. It features the same design used for decades, a left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the front, created by artist Felix Schlag, with his Virginia estate, Monticello, on the reverse. The inscriptions read, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the year, 1971, on the obverse, while the reverse says, "E Pluribus Unum, United States of America," and 5 cents. It's clean, symmetrical, and instantly recognizable to almost every American. The composition hadn't changed either. Since the end of World War II, Jefferson nickels were struck using a durable alloy of 75% copper and 25% nickel, designed to last for decades. In 1971, these coins were minted in two major facilities, Philadelphia and Denver. The Philadelphia coins bear no mint mark, while those from Denver include a small D on the reverse, to the right of Monticello.So. With all that in mind, what could possibly make a 1971 Jefferson nickel worth more than face value, let alone a life-changing fortune? Well, as any seasoned coin collector will tell you, the devil is in the details. The key to understanding why certain 1971 Jefferson nickels are so valuable lies in a combination of factors: minting errors, die varieties, strike quality, and preservation condition. It's this unique blend that can elevate a simple 5-cent piece into a collector's ultimate prize. Let's start with die varieties and errors, which are a goldmine for rare coin hunters. In 1971, the U.S. Mint was producing coins at a massive scale. Billions of coins were struck each year, and with such high-speed production, mistakes were inevitable. Among the most fascinating are the double die errors, where the coin design is accidentally stamped twice by misaligned dies. These result in visible doubling of letters and numbers, especially noticeable in Liberty and the date. If the doubling is bold and clear, these coins can be extremely rare. Another striking variety involves off-center strikes, where the coin blank wasn't perfectly aligned with the die. Depending on the percentage of the off-center strike, especially if it's significant and the date is still visible, the value of the coin can increase dramatically. Some coins also exhibit brockage errors, clipped planchets, or strikes on the wrong metal blanks, which are even rarer and more desirable, but one of the most sought-after attributes in a Jefferson nickel is the full steps designation. This refers to the number of visible steps on Monticello on the reverse of the coin. For a coin to qualify as full steps, it must show 5 or 6 uninterrupted steps, a detail that's surprisingly hard to achieve due to the way nickels are struck. Most nickels, especially from earlier decades, show weak or worn-out steps due to worn dies or poor striking pressure. In 1971, finding a nickel with crisp, full steps is especially difficult. The dies used during that time were often reused for too long, resulting in softer details. That's why when a 1971 Jefferson nickel appears in gem mint condition with sharp full steps, collectors go wild. These coins are rare, beautiful, and a true challenge to find, but rarity alone isn't everything. Condition plays a massive role in value. The coin grading scale, from 1 to 70, determines how well a coin has been preserved. A nickel that's been circulated for years will likely grade between 10 and 40. But those stored carefully in rolls, bags, or proof sets can achieve much higher grades, mint state 65, 66, or even higher. When such high-grade nickels also possess full steps and a rare error, their value multiplies. In fact, some of the most valuable 1971 Jefferson nickels are those struck in proof sets, special coins made for collectors with mirror-like finishes and extra attention to detail. Although most proof coins were made in San Francisco, 1971 did not include a proof S mint mark, making high-quality business strikes even more important. The few 1971 nickels that resemble proof-like quality and exhibit strong full steps are especially prized. Now imagine finding a 1971 nickel that combines all of these elements: pristine mint condition, clear full steps, and a dramatic minting error, such as a double die obverse or a misaligned planchet. The odds of that happening are incredibly rare. But such coins do exist, and when they do surface, they create waves in the numismatic world. Collectors and dealers eagerly compete for these treasures, knowing how few are left in the world. Auction houses watch them closely, and when they appear, bidding wars begin. These coins aren't just metal, they're artifacts, symbols of a specific moment in American history, captured in near-perfect form. And now, for the most exciting part of this entire journey. You might be wondering just how much a rare 1971 Jefferson nickel like this could be worth. Surely not much, it's just a nickel, right? Well, think again. Point 1. Exceptionally rare and immaculate 1971 Jefferson nickel, featuring bold full steps, an extraordinary strike, and a verified mint error, was once sold to a private collector for an unbelievable $135,000. Yes, you heard that right. A coin that originally cost just 5 cents sold for more than the price of an entire house. So before you dismiss the change in your pocket, before you toss that nickel into a tip jar or forget it in your car's cup holder, take a second look. Because the next time you hold a Jefferson nickel from 1971, you might just be holding a piece of American history, and perhaps even a small fortune in the palm of your hand. Top 4. It's easy to overlook the coins in your pocket. To most people, they're nothing more than spare change, tools to feed a parking meter, buy a piece of candy, or collect dust at the bottom of a drawer. But what if I told you that one of those humble coins, a nickel from 1987, to be exact, could be worth more than an expensive car, or even more than what some people earn in an entire year? Yes, the Jefferson nickel, minted in 1987, might seem ordinary, but some rare versions of this coin are hiding in plain sight, and they are worth a fortune. Now, let's go back to 1987. It was a year of transformation. The Cold War was winding down, President Ronald Reagan was in office, and Wall Street was shaken by Black Monday, one of the most dramatic stock market crashes in history. America was in the midst of change, but amid all the social and economic shifts, the United States Mint continued its mission, striking millions of coins every day, including the familiar Jefferson nickel. The Jefferson nickel had been in circulation since 1938, and its design had barely changed by 1987. On the obverse side, we find a confident portrait of Thomas Jefferson, facing left, with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the year, 1987, surrounding his profile. On the reverse is his beloved home, Monticello, perfectly symmetrical and stately, beneath the words, "E pluribus unum, United States of America," and 5 cents. Designed by artist Felix Schlag, the coin's classic appearance remained a staple of American coinage for decades. In 1987, Jefferson nickels were minted in 2 primary locations, Philadelphia and Denver. Coins minted in Philadelphia carry no mint mark, while those struck in Denver include a small D to the right of Monticello on the reverse. That year, the U.S. Mint produced hundreds of millions of nickels, nearly 750 million from Philadelphia and over 580 million from Denver. That's well over 1 billion nickels in just 1 year. So, how can something produced in such massive numbers be rare? The answer lies in a fascinating combination of quality, error, and preservation, 3 things that, when they intersect in just the right way, can make a coin incredibly valuable. Let's start with strike quality. The Jefferson nickel, due to its design and metal composition, is notoriously difficult to strike with perfect detail, especially when it comes to the reverse side, where the steps of Monticello are located. Most nickels have softly struck steps or blurred lines due to worn dies or light striking pressure. However, the rare nickels that show full steps, meaning 5 or 6 clean, unbroken steps on Monticello, are highly prized by collectors. Coins graded with the full steps designation are significantly more valuable, especially when combined with near-perfect surfaces. Only a tiny fraction of 1987 nickels earned this elite status. That's why collectors will pay a premium for a Jefferson nickel with sharp full steps and a high mint state grade, such as MS-66 or MS-67. These coins are difficult to find, especially untouched examples that have been preserved in pristine condition since the day they left the mint. Now, let's talk about mint errors, a world of surprises and hidden treasures. Mistakes happen in every factory, and the US Mint is no exception. Some 1987 nickels were struck off-center, misaligned with the dies, or double-struck. Others were stamped on the wrong metal planchets entirely, including those meant for pennies or foreign coins. These mint errors are extremely rare, and each one tells a story, not just of the coin itself, but of the chaos and unpredictability of mass production. One of the most fascinating types of errors is the double die. This occurs when a coin's design is impressed twice due to a misalignment, creating a shadow-like doubling effect on letters, numbers, or design elements. If you were to find a 1987 nickel with strong doubling on Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date itself, you could be holding something far more valuable than ordinary change. Another element that drives value is condition. While hundreds of millions of 1987 nickels were minted, the vast majority have been circulated, scratched, dented, worn down, and handled by thousands of hands. A nickel that's been bouncing around for 30 or 40 years simply doesn't hold much numismatic value. But a coin that's been preserved in flawless, untouched condition, with no nicks, no discoloration, and sharp detail, is a different story entirely. The US coin grading scale goes from 1 to 70, and coins that grade at MS-67 or above are exceptionally rare. For a 1987 nickel, those grades are almost unheard of. Even experienced collectors have trouble locating such pristine examples. And when you find a high-grade coin with both full steps and a known mint error, its value doesn't just rise, it explodes. So where do you find these rare gems? Often, they show up in original mint rolls, uncirculated coin sets, or forgotten collections tucked away in attics and safety deposit boxes. Sometimes they're discovered by accident, someone cashing in change, sorting coins, or cleaning out an old drawer finds one. It looks ordinary at first glance, but a closer look reveals something extraordinary. That's the magic of coin collecting. It's like treasure hunting, and the next big discovery could be waiting right in your own home. The 1987 Jefferson nickel may not look flashy. It doesn't contain silver or gold. But it holds value in a different way, through rarity, history, and perfection. Collectors who understand the fine details of coin grading, mint varieties, and error patterns know just how rare a truly exceptional 1987 nickel can be. These coins aren't just bits of metal, they're pieces of a grand American tradition, tangible connections to the year they were made, and, in some cases, literal fortunes hiding in plain sight. And now, after everything we've uncovered, it's time to answer the question that has been building throughout this video: what is the highest value ever recorded for a 1987 Jefferson nickel? The answer is stunning. 1 Remarkable specimen, a 1987 Jefferson nickel in nearly perfect condition, boasting flawless full steps and verified minting anomalies, was evaluated by top grading experts, presented at auction, and sold to a passionate collector for an incredible $92,000. Yes, that's right. A nickel, just 5 cents when it left the mint, ended up being worth nearly $100,000. So the next time you find yourself sifting through your change, don't be so quick to dismiss what you're holding. Look closely. You might not just be looking at a coin. You might be holding history, and a small fortune in your hand. Top 5. What if I told you that a simple 5-cent coin could be worth more than a luxury car? That something millions of people have touched, pocketed, and overlooked every day for decades might actually be hiding one of the rarest treasures in American numismatic history. Welcome to the surprising world of the 1990 Jefferson nickel, a coin that, despite its ordinary appearance, has left collectors stunned and chasing it down with relentless determination. The year 1990 marked the dawn of a new decade. The Cold War had just ended, technology was advancing rapidly, and the United States was standing on the edge of the digital age. Yet, even as the world around it was changing at breakneck speed, one small symbol of American tradition remained unchanged: the Jefferson nickel. First introduced in 1938, this coin had quietly become a fixture of American currency, faithfully carrying the portrait of Thomas Jefferson and his iconic home, Monticello, across generations. By 1990, the Jefferson nickel had seen over 5 decades of circulation. The design still featured Jefferson's dignified profile on the obverse, looking left, with "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date, 1990, neatly surrounding him. The reverse showed Monticello, Jefferson's stately Virginia estate, with the inscriptions, "E Pluribus Unum, United States of America," and 5 cents. It was familiar, classic, and trusted, the kind of coin people rarely gave a second thought to. In that year, the U.S. Mint produced Jefferson nickels in 2 primary facilities, Philadelphia and Denver. Philadelphia's coins carried no mint mark, while Denver's included the signature, D, to the right of Monticello. Combined, the mint struck over 900 million Jefferson nickels in 1990. With numbers that high, how could any of these coins possibly be considered rare? That's where the real story begins. You see, not all coins are created equal. Although the majority of 1990 Jefferson nickels were struck as standard circulation coins, a tiny fraction of them were struck under unique circumstances. Some featured rare minting errors, others boasted exceptionally high-quality strikes, and a few were preserved so perfectly that they are now considered masterpieces of modern coinage. Let's talk about strike quality first. One of the most prized features in a Jefferson nickel is the presence of full steps on Monticello. These steps are difficult to strike clearly, as they require high pressure and perfectly prepared dies. Most coins, especially those made for circulation, show blurred or weak step details due to worn dies or fast-paced minting processes. But in rare cases, a 1990 Jefferson nickel comes off the press with sharp, crisp detail, all 5 or 6 steps clearly visible, uninterrupted, and perfectly struck. These are known as full steps nickels, and collectors hunt for them obsessively. The rarity increases exponentially when a full steps nickel is found in mint state condition, meaning it shows no signs of wear, no scratches, and retains all of its original luster. Such coins, especially those graded MS-66 or higher, are extremely difficult to find. The majority of 1990 nickels were used, dropped, rubbed, and forgotten in circulation. That's why the discovery of a high-grade full steps coin is such a remarkable event in the collecting world. Now let's move into the thrilling world of mint errors, the little mistakes that can turn a basic coin into a fortune. In 1990, a number of Jefferson nickels were struck with unexpected and unusual flaws. These include off-center strikes, where the design is visibly shifted and parts of the coin are blank. Some coins exhibit clipped planchets, where a piece of the metal blank is missing. Others were struck with die cracks, cuds, or misaligned dies, creating bizarre and one-of-a-kind visual effects. Perhaps the most exciting errors are those involving wrong planchet strikes, where a nickel was accidentally struck on a blank meant for a different denomination. For example, some Jefferson nickels were found struck on copper planchets meant for Lincoln cents, resulting in a smaller, lighter nickel with a strange copper color. These mistakes are incredibly rare, but when certified and authenticated, they command sky-high prices. There's also the story of the proof nickels, coins struck with mirror-like finishes and extra care for collectors. While the 1990 proof sets were struck in San Francisco and carry an S mint mark, some errors and anomalies were discovered even among these highly controlled products. These proof nickels, if struck with unusual clarity, doubling, or unique characteristics, can become collector showpieces, but even without an error or proof finish, a 1990 nickel can still be worth a fortune, if it's in the right condition. Coins are graded on a 70-point scale, with higher numbers representing better preservation. A coin graded MS-67 or MS-68 is nearly flawless, an almost impossible find in coins meant for everyday use. Only a handful of 1990 Jefferson nickels have been certified at this level, and collectors know just how valuable they are. The hunt for these exceptional coins happens every day. Coin dealers comb through rolls of nickels, collectors search through their change, and hobbyists scour estate sales, flea markets, and auctions in hopes of finding that one elusive coin, the 1990 Jefferson nickel that stands out from the crowd. It's a race against time and luck, but for those who succeed, the reward is staggering. And now, for the moment you've been waiting for, just how valuable can a 1990 Jefferson nickel be? Most people assume the answer is obvious, 5 cents. Maybe, if you're lucky, $1 or $2 for an uncirculated 1 dot, but here's the twist that makes this story unforgettable. Point 1. Extraordinary 1990 Jefferson nickel, featuring sharp full steps, a perfect mint strike, and preserved in astonishing condition, was certified by experts, showcased at a major auction, and sold to an elite collector for an unbelievable $70,000. Yes. A coin worth just 5 cents when it was minted has risen in value to become a small fortune. And there could still be more out there, hiding in plain sight, just waiting to be found. So the next time you empty your pockets, don't overlook that nickel. Because it might not just be change, it might be a piece of history, and a path to something truly life-changing.